talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com. Welcome to Moving and Motivating Radio.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wade Taylor. And on this show, we try to move and motivate you to do a number of things, but basically to improve your life. And there's many ways that we can improve our lives, from going to the gym to eating better food to having a better attitude, and also recognizing the influence of energy in our lives, because that can drive attitude, but it's deeper than that. And I think it's really underappreciated. And so this is one in a series of interviews I'm doing with Jit Gupte, who works in the world of energy, as we're wanting to help you understand, embrace, and take control of the influence of energy in your life. We've done an episode where we made you aware that while energy is intangible, it has impact. When we walk in a room, we can feel the energy in that room. In another episode, we talked about how that energy can display itself with problems in the physical realm. People that have chronic coughs that it turns out aren't as much a musculature problem as they are an emotional, energetic problem that's creating a musculature problem. And so, again, we want you to accept and recognize that energy does have impacts on your life, but through intelligent people like Jit Gupte, there are ways that you can influence and control that. And it doesn't only affect us in the world of the physical, but also in our emotional world, our overall life, things like relationship and success. And what I really want to call your attention to is this may be what's happening in those areas where you don't understand why things aren't going right. Just like in that world of the physical, I've got a cough. I've been to doctors for 10 years. They can't solve it. I go look in the world of energy, discover, wow, the problem's over there. Now I can fix that. Well, that also has an effect in every aspect of your life. And so, Jit, help us understand a little bit the range of areas that energy can be influencing day to day with us.
Yes, Wade, that's a very interesting discussion we can have, because overall, although we have a physical kind of existence, we also have a kind of energetic existence. And all of the issues that we experience in our day-to-day lives are kind of intertwined between our physical and energetic kind of existence. Let me give you an example. When we see any problems surfacing around us in our own lives, we tend to assign it as some external problem or some external force that is kind of coming at us. But in many ways, I've seen through my work that all of the problems that we see around us, whether they be in the realm of relationships with other people, whether our own success in certain fields, professional, corporate, or even personal level, all of these problems are pretty much kind of driven by things that are happening within us. And when I say within us, it implies within our energetic self, within our emotional energies that we are holding within ourselves, and the way we are responding to any of these life situations creates either a problem scenario or a more of a free-flowing scenario where we don't see those problems. So that's where I would say having an understanding of the energetic aspect is extremely important if we wish to understand how to resolve life's problems. When we are referring to problems in life, when we are referring to problems in relationships, for example, with people around us, with our own family members, with people that we aspire to get into relationship with, or we are talking of issues we are facing with success in our own lives, in professional life, in personal life, we always tend to see problems as something that is happening beyond us, coming at us from the outside world. But from what I've seen in my research in the field of quantum energy that I work with, I have discovered that most of these problems are actually coming to us from within us. Now, when I say within us, I'm referring to our own energetic self, our own emotional makeup, our own energies that we are holding on. And we are actually creating a scenario where we start to create problems for ourselves in our own lives. And this happens because of our own past memories of certain events. It happens because of certain beliefs that we hold. It happens because of certain programs and blocks that we have in our own self, that we now start to look at scenarios as problems, and we start to limit our own ways in which we react to those problems, thereby causing blocks to our own success in those areas of our own lives.
Right. So this sounds like it could be a little beyond something that we can all relate to, I assume. One of the sayings that even I've used is, I may not be able to control whether I have a flat tire, but I control how I deal with it. And so on the energetic level, I'm assuming, one aspect would be, I had the flat tire, that, okay, it's just a problem that needs to be fixed. But because I've got past history with my parents, with my family, with whatever, I now bring all that, and now this fixing a flat tire is a whole ball of misery for me, because if my dad had given me a better car, and if my brother had done this, and if all this, I wouldn't be in this situation. So I assume part of it is us bringing all that negative energy into a regular kind of problem and just making it that much worse? Is that part of it? I
think that's a very valid example, because you have now taken a very simple problem which had a very simple solution and given it a much larger than life dimension, which has now become beyond your means to resolve, because now you have brought in your own family and your ancestral kind of energies into this whole dynamic of this problem. And now you find that it is impossible to resolve it because you are put into a miserable situation by life itself. And that wasn't really the case. So that problem had a simple solution. And had you not brought in the emotions and the energies of all of these aspects, we could have easily resolved it.
Right. But it also can go beyond that, I would presume, where maybe the reason we got the flat tire is because we drove in a bad place, but because, and here, let me jump to something, say, extreme, maybe because of some kind of bad energy, I'm an addict. So I'm driving into a bad area to buy some heroin, and because I'm in the bad area, there's the possibility of me getting the flat tire. And so the energy can not only be reflected in how we're dealing with the problem, but we may not even realize how the energy led us to the problem itself.
That's correct. And that's what we refer to as limiting beliefs or patterns that put us into a continuous loop of behaving in a certain way. So these are our own making. And although we may not be aware of it at a conscious level, these are forces within us. These are energies within us, which are actually influencing the way we feel, the way we behave, the way we react in certain scenarios. And we then tend to get caught up in a continuous loop of certain behavior, which keeps us in a pattern of lack of success, broken relationships, or, things like that.
Right. And people are going, okay, but how do I get out of that loop? And part of it is accepting and recognizing there's an energy component to this. And that's why it's not in our conscious mind. And that's why we think it's just baffling why we're having this problem, because it really isn't conscious forefront of awareness, but it is real, it is tangible, it is energy. And that's why we need to turn to people like Jit Gupte, who has the capacity to expose us to that, to now give us the details of something that now maybe you're just getting an inkling of existing. And Jit, let's throw this out right now and we'll continue the conversation. But if they wanted to learn more about what you're doing, what's the best website for them to find you at?
Well, they can reach me easily at www.theproblemfreelife.com, which outlines the work I do, the process I use, and the kind of situations in life that I can deal with. And there are lots of testimonials. You can hear a lot about the people who have experienced the shifts in their life, and it's a great resource for everyone.
All right, theproblemfreelife.com.
That's right.
So again, that's a great resource to continue learning about this. What we're really wanting to bring to the forefront of your attention is all the things that aren't at the forefront of your attention, you might say. There are things happening in your life that aren't at the conscious level, that are at an energetic level that hopefully we've made you aware of does exist and have a tangible impact. And just like if your leg is fractured, you need to go to the type of medical doctor that resets a fracture. If your heart, soul, or emotional attitude, your energy is fractured, you need to go to somebody with the tools to help you work on that part of your life. And you've had success with people in helping them, correct?
Absolutely. I have seen so many cases of relationships. And when I say relationship, it can refer to romantic relationships. It can refer to relationships within family units, relationships that have broken, and then there are issues with people facing those kind of scenarios. So relationships in the human context are so complex and dynamic, and there are so many facets to the way those relationships came about in the very first place, how the individuals who were involved in those relationships got into that situation where it wasn't successful. And then we look at all of that through the research work that I do through my process. And we then try to resolve by clearing the energies from those past traumas, from those past events, and try to reset the dynamic of that relationship. So, for example, there could be relationships where, in a romantic scenario where the couple may have serious issues just making commitments. And that can be maybe at a conscious level because of financial issues, or maybe I don't have a home yet, so I'm not making a commitment, or I don't need kids and you want kids. But that's at a very conscious level. But there could be much deeper issues where one of them could have a serious issue with self-trust in his own self, for example. Mm-hmm. And that may be coloring up his entire relationship with the other person because he doesn't trust neither himself nor the person in front of him. So when we start researching and try to look at what is actually inhibiting the person from, making a positive step in that relationship, it invariably comes back to his own self, where he has issues which are holding him up from achieving success in that relationship. So when we try to clear those emotions, when we try to clear those negative charges within his energy field, he starts to look at the same relationship in a much different and positive perspective. And then commitment becomes a non-issue because now he's at ease with what is happening within his relationship. And he has actually worked on himself and not on the other person, or not on the financial issue, or not on the issue with kids or not having kids. It is his own belief and his own energy within his own energy field that we actually worked on. So that's one example.
Yeah, recognizing that it is energy and understanding the piece of the puzzle that needs to be addressed. And that's why we need people like Jit Gupte, because just like the golfer can't fix his swing without a coach outside him watching him, because it's impossible for the golfer to see himself from outside of himself. Well, the same thing with this energy and everything. There are things that we're blind to. There's things that we may not be aware of or understand how to use the tools to reveal. But once we get somebody that understands these tools and are using them to find this energy, they may discover something as, 10 tangible and absurd as when you were 1.5, your dad didn't catch you one time when he threw you up in the air. And from that point forward, you're like, well, hell, I can't trust anybody now. And just imagine how that ripples through on a deep subconscious level all the way through adulthood. But there's innumerable variations on that, right?
Exactly. So it can also then translate into how you start to react in other areas of life, such as professional life or your own personal life, and that starts to inhibit your own success. So when we say typically that you are not getting the success that you desire in, say, your finances or at your job, that your boss is not really allowing you to do certain things or giving you the success or the recognition that you desire, it invariably ends up becoming an issue with your own self in the research that I do. So it's not something that is around you that is causing the problems. It is something within you, again, to repeat myself, that is causing the problems. And in many cases, it can be our own belief system about success. It can be our own ancestral patterns of thought that you have carried forward. It can be our own childhood events, as Wade, you just mentioned, that are shaping up the way you are actually performing in a certain situation. So when you put all of these emotional and past event energetic issues into the equation, you will start to realize that you have the power, you have the control to actually create a change to the environment around you by working on yourself and making a change to your own energy makeup. And once you do that through a process that is available and that has shown great results, you will realize that all the problems that you saw around you were actually easy to dissolve and they just change magically.
Yeah, well, and again, it seems almost magical because it's about dissolving them. And let me really call everybody's attention to this because this is a critical aspect of all this you have to understand. It's not about your effort. What we're talking about here as being the block to your success isn't the fact that you aren't doing something. It's the fact that you're doing something that's inhibiting your success. It's not go make yourself successful. It's get out of the way of yourself being successful. So that's why people get frustrated as they go, but I'm working harder. I worked 8 hours. Tomorrow I'll work 10 hours. Tomorrow I'll work 12 hours. Yeah, but the problem isn't how hard you're working. It's there's something going on that's inhibiting you of receiving the success. I went in and put the hours of the job, but I'm hiding from the boss so he can't give me a paycheck. Then I'm complaining I'm broke. So again, just a critical concept. It's not what you're doing. It's what is inhibiting you within yourself from receiving the rewards for what you're doing.
Right. And when we say what's inhibiting you within your own self, I think we need people to understand that this is a much deeper and powerful force that is acting upon you. It comes from your own, I would say, energy field, which is, the carrier of all these past emotions. And you can call that at a subconscious level. So these are powerful forces that are still active and acting upon your current state of being. So these are not kind of issues that you are consciously aware of, that you know you're behaving in a certain way which is detrimental to your own good or self-sabotaging your own success. These are forces which are underlying, which are underpinning your thought process and making you behave in detrimental ways. And that is where it is important to employ a method or a process to kind of unwind and discover what those forces are, which can then be understood, transformed, and brought into a positive state for your current situation to change.
Yeah.
So that's the process that is very important to then employ. And awareness of this whole scenario is the first step. The second step then is to then employ a process to then help you to come out of that situation.
Right. And that process is exactly what you have and what you use to help people. And we can learn more about you and that process over at www.theproblemfreelife.com, theproblemfreelife.com. And so over the course of this episode, as well as the past episodes we've done, we hope that you are accepting that energy does have a tangible impact on your life, even though it seems to be an intangible thing, and that energy can be affecting your physical health, your relationships, and your overall success that includes having a financial component, and also that recognize every problem you have in life does have this energetic component, and until you are aware of that, address it, and resolve it, you're never going to come out with the solution and the positive outcomes that you're hoping for. Back again another time here on Moving and Motivating Radio, powered by WSRadio.com.